Good evening and welcome to 66 of us.tv. We are bringing you lives where you can learn stuff, you can get entertained. We are filling your time so lockdown doesn't feel boring, and we are so lucky this evening. We are not only going to learn to paint on ceramics, we have got a world-renowned performance artist. We are going to be learning so much, so hopefully you are feeling very artistic. We had a fantastic run through earlier on today, and I have to say I am so excited for what is going to be happening this evening. So it's my pleasure to hand over so that we can learn how to paint on ceramics with the wonderful Adelaide Damoah. Adelaide, over to you, sweetheart.
Hi, Claire. Good evening, everyone. Thank you. Hi, Claire. Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for having me. Um, so I am going to be showing you how to paint on ceramics, as Claire said. First of all, I'll tell you what you're going to need. The first thing you're going to need is a plate. I've got this tiny little one here. I got it off Amazon very cheaply. The most important thing to remember about these plates is that they need to be fully vitrified for heat, heat resistance, dishwasher safe, and whatever size you want, really. Then in terms of materials, you're going to need some porcelain plates. For these ones, I have got porcelain 150. They're quite cheap. You can get these for about £4 each from Amazon. Some masking tape. Doesn't have to be blue. I'm just extra, and I decided to get blue masking tape. You'll see why later. A pencil sharpener. Um, I have got a soft pencil. It's really important that it's a soft one. So not one of the H ones or the HB ones, a soft one. This one is actually just charcoal pencil. And then I like to use a colouring pencil as well. You'll see why later, just so that I can see what I'm doing. And then a selection of really slim paint. On top of that, you're going to need a sheet of tracing paper, and whatever image that you're going to be using as a stencil. So we're going to start off by making a stencil. And then finally, you will need a bowl or a cup of some clear, clean water. And a nice cup of tea, because we're going to be here for a while. Okay. So the first thing we're going to do is take our image. The image that I'm using, I'm going to explain this with Claire a bit later, but it's actually an image of a performance piece that I did back in 2017. It's a really special piece of work for me. So we're going to start off by getting the tracing paper. The first thing you need to do is actually, when you print off the image, is make sure that it is actually the size that you want it to appear on the plate. So this is my plate. So if I just tear this down, you don't need to cut it with a scissors or anything, as long as you can just tear it so that you can see approximately where you want it to go on the plate. And then you get your tracing paper, and then you can tape it to the tracing paper if you want. I mean, to the paper if you want. I like to do that just to make sure that it doesn't wriggle around. And then you're going to trace around the outline. And what you need to remember is that if you want it to come out on the same size, well, in the same way around, once you put it onto the plate, you're going to have to trace over this on the back all over again. Because what you're doing when you're tracing over the image is creating a mirror image on the back. You'll see what I mean when I finish. Is anyone old enough to remember Blue Peter from back in the day? Because I think after a minute or two, I'm going to have to reference one of the Blue Peter classic lines. See if you can guess what it is. Mums and dads might be old enough. I'm probably giving away my age here, but it doesn't matter. We're all friends here. Right. Just going to keep. There are loads of tiny details on this drawing. So you can use something that is as detailed or as not as detailed as you like. It's really up to you and down to your personal preference and what it is that you want to put on your plate or whatever ceramic object it is that you're going to be working on. And this, for me, this part of the process is really relaxing. It's a bit time consuming, especially if it's a detailed work like this one, but it's actually really relaxing. And anyone who knows my work knows that this is not how I usually work. And I shall be chatting with Claire later to explain to you how I ended up making plates. Okay, I think it's now time to go over to the Blue Peter moment, which is here's one I made earlier. You got that? So here is a tracing that I used the last time I was making these plates. And basically what I did was traced over it just like you saw me doing on the original image here. So this is the right side up. So you can see that it exactly matches the image there. And then what I'm going to do, well, what you should do is turn your image over and trace over it again on the back. So that when you put it on the plate, it's going to appear how you want it to appear. So how the original image was, this one. Okay, so now I'm going to just stick that there for reference, and I'm going to position this on my plate. And tape it into position. Just get this in position. And because this plate has got a slight sort of dip there, I don't want to stick it all the way around because then that's going to make it too tight, and then it could end up meaning that once I go over it, it could mean that the pencil kind of digs a hole in the tracing paper. You don't want that. So if you've got this kind of plate, then you want to just use your fingers to just hold it in place once you're drawing on those particular sections. Or if you've got a type of plate which is just flat, then you're good to go. So now I'm going to transfer the image onto, and you can now see why I like to use a coloured pencil, because it means that I can see exactly where I've gone over. Just gonna kind of scribble and rub, and every now and then you can lift it up to check to make sure that it's transferring, and it is transferring nicely. This is like a cheat's way of painting or transferring an image onto a ceramic plate. Of course, you could paint it by hand, but that would take ages. This already takes long enough. So, and it also means that you can, if you're not the best at drawing, you can get a high degree of detail and accuracy, which I like. So just going to keep on. Oh my goodness, I just had a flashback of something I used to watch when I was a kid, which was a drawing instructional thing. Um, anybody old enough to remember Rolf Harris's Cartoon Time? I don't know, maybe I shouldn't be saying that because of his because of his oh dear, his what ended up happening to him. Well, what he ended up doing to other people. So that's such a shame, such a shame. But nice memories nonetheless. And what else was there? Um, that little plasticine cartoon thing, Morph. Yes, I used to love that thing. It was a lot of fun. Okay, so we're going to keep on going all the way around with this orange pencil. Every now and then, have a look and see. Yep, transferring nicely. Okay, you can see I've actually I've used this several times. Um, this same piece of tracing paper for this particular piece, and I've used purple and green and normal pencil. But now using the orange means that I can see exactly where I've gone over and where I haven't, so I don't miss anything. And you could do the same thing. You can, once you've got this set up, you can set up multiple stencils, and you can just have them lined up. So when I was originally making these plates back at the beginning of the year, it was beginning of February, yeah. When I was originally making them, I had to make 24 plates in about 48 hours. Hence the reason why I decided to use a stencil rather than doing it by hand. It meant that I could get a lot of work done in a relatively short space of time. I still ended up staying up till 4 o'clock in the morning, as my agent Marine Tangi will tell you because I let her know. But I got it done in the end, and everybody was pleased with the results. So it was worth it. It was definitely worth it. So I'm just going to keep on, almost done with this section now. Keep on drawing around every detail. And it doesn't have to be exact, you can just scribble over it and it will transfer. And almost there. Another little check. Yep, still good. Aha. I think almost there's a couple of more details I'm missing, which is why it's good to not tape the thing all the way around. So you can keep lifting and checking, because if you tape it all the way around and you can't check it until right at the end, then it's going to be really annoying to have to peel it, move the position, and could potentially spoil it. You don't want that. Let's see. So it looks like we are good to go. Okay, so now you have to very carefully lift the tape off. Oops, no, we don't want that. Let's move that out the way. Lift the tape off. Lift the tracing paper off. tiny fiddly plates. And there we have it. So we now have a template, so you can basically now fill it in with the paints. And this is the fun bit. Well, all of it is fun, but this is my favourite bit. It would help if I could open it. Okay, good. That would have been embarrassing. Would have been really embarrassing. Okay, I'll get the gold one ready as well. All right. So for this, because I'm working on such a tiny plate, hence why I've got such really tiny paint brushes. So I'm going to start off with this super, super tiny one, really skinny. And these kinds of paintbrushes, you can get them really cheap at Amazon or Hobbycraft. I think you can get these Pebeo paints in Hobbycraft as well. And Hobbycraft are doing, you can still order stuff online from Hobbycraft as well as Amazon. So you just really carefully fill in. So right now on this reference picture, the sort of light coloured splashes are the gold bits, and the dark is the blue. I'm really looking forward to telling you what this piece is all about. And it's so weird to see it this tiny because the original piece is actually 4 meters wide. 4 meters, yeah, 4 meters. You'll understand why later. I'm going to go from this side. And I do like these paints. This is a lot of fun for me because anyone who knows my work knows that I used to paint by hand prior to 2016 for like 11 years. So from 2005 to 2016 of my sort of professional career as an artist, I was painting by hand um, in I suppose, more of a traditional way of painting, and I really enjoyed it. But I never quite attained the level of that I would have wanted to attain. And so switching to this new way of making work, where I'm using my body as the tool, has allowed me to really express myself a lot more fully than I was capable of expressing myself before. But I did really enjoy painting like that. So doing this, working in this kind of way on the ceramics is a really nice opportunity for me to paint by hand again because I do love it. Yes. Yeah. So uh, this is a leg, believe it or not. Once you see the whole image at the end, you'll understand what you're looking at. Probably at the moment you're thinking, what on earth is she doing? What is that image? But you'll see. Claire is going to show you a picture of the original image. This right here is a hand, and it's very simple shapes. And when you realize that this is actually a miniature version of my actual body, it's quite interesting when you start to understand that the body is just, when it comes to drawing and painting the body, is made up of very, very simple shapes. It's very interesting. Fun fact, I have a degree in applied biology, and anatomy was uh, one of my favourite subjects alongside genetics. So I'm a biologist, artist. Not that unusual, I'm starting to learn actually. I've got a good friend of mine called Adelaide who he's like chemistry or something, and he's a photographer now, an amazing artist. Yes. Mm-hmm. I think I'm not sure I'm liking this paintbrush. I might have to. I like it on the one hand because it's giving me control, but on the other hand, it's not allowing me to put down as much paint as I want. But I will stick with it for now before switching to a brush with a longer brushes. Okay. I hope everybody's keeping safe and well during this lockdown period. It's really strange times that we're living in. It's nice to be able to switch off from all of the noise and do something with your hands. It's so relaxing. Another thing I've been doing with my hands of late is I've returned to crochet. I used to crochet when I was studying at university. An old lady that I used to look after when I was at uni. I used to work in a nursing home with my mum. My mum is a nurse, and she was a registered mental nurse. She's now retired, but my mum ran this nursing home, and I used to work in there on the weekends. I think I'm going to switch now. I am going to switch to the juicier paintbrush. You see why it's good to have a selection of brushes because you can change as you see fit. So as I was saying, my mum used to run this nursing home, and so when I was 18, I got a job there working as a healthcare assistant. I had to do a healthcare assistant course with the British Nursing Association before I could do that job. But essentially, I was I was looking after people in nursing homes, in their homes, in hospitals, care homes, and my favourite place to work was my mum's nursing home because I used to really enjoy talking to the old people there. And one of the old ladies, she was one of my favourites, um, taught me how to knit and crochet, and I never forgot it. And after I left university, when friends started having babies, I would make blankets for their babies. And this passion, I suppose, I don't know if you could really call it a passion, but interest has been revived since this whole crisis. I feel fortunate that even though I know a few people who it's impacted, and um, it's impacted a few of my friends directly, and it's getting a bit close to home. Um, I feel fortunate that I'm able to continue working from home, doing this kind of stuff, um, to keep my mind calm I think it's really important. Okay, so you can see I am a little under halfway through the painting of this, and as I get closer to the end I might go over a few bits. I just want to add a bit more there, and you can choose to paint this however you want. For me, I like to add some different sort of gradients in colour. Like there. That is a bottom. Yes, indeed it is. Okay, and there's a thigh. Just add a little bit more. So got a bit more depth of colour there. Like I say, you can do this however you want. You can, if you've got kids, it's a fun activity for kids. And if you're doing something fiddly and you really have to concentrate like this will surely keep them occupied. I know some parents are looking for stuff to do. I've got a few friends who have got kids who are not in school right now, and they're looking for activities to do to keep the kids occupied. And this one is perfect because you can, once you've finished making the plate, you can then keep them and you can use them. So once you finish the painting of the plates, you have to bake them in the oven to set them. And once they're set, then you can use them to eat, you can microwave them, you can put them in a dishwasher, assuming that you've got dishwasher safe ones, which you should. You can, yeah. So it's a practical. It's fun, but it's practical at the same time because you get a nice looking dinner plate at the end of it, and you can create an entire set if you want. When I finished this set, so my agent Marine Tangi uses them in her posh art dinner parties in her lovely apartment. And there's something different, and they can be a nice topic of conversation during dinner parties if you're into that kind of thing. See, you can see why it's important to. So that's that side. That's the right way up. You're looking at it now. You can see why it's super important to try and get the details correct. Mm-hmm. And a good thing about this is once you have finished the plate and it's dried, you can simply use a wet cloth to rub off any pencil that's showing through, and it disappears like magic. And when I first made these, everybody who saw them was like, "Oh my God, did you do all of those by hand?" It's a secret. Now the secret is out. No, I did not. Well, I did, but I had some help from some tracing paper. Okay. Um, we'll soon be finished with the blue. And if you're doing it, you can use multiple colours if you want. You'll understand why for me it's blue and gold at the end when I have the little chat with Claire. For me, this work has to stay blue and gold. but I am well up for trying other colours with other designs on other plates. Um, I might actually do a whole set of these because I am rather partial to dinner parties since I moved here. Okay. Okay. Um, this bit actually my back. It's really weird. It looks like a bird or something, but when you see at the end, you'll see the whole thing come together, and you'll be like, "Oh, I know what I'm looking at now." It's funny, I know exactly what it is because I've looked at this thing so much in the last 3 years. I can't believe it was 3 years ago. My goodness, time is moving so quickly, so quickly. Okay, I think I'm going to switch to a skinny brush again, so I can. I'll go back to this one again. Another good thing to have next to you is either a piece of scrap paper like this or a cloth, so that you can brush off your brushes before dipping it inside the paint. So now I'm just painting the tiny little hands. Only just need not very much to express that it is indeed a hand print. It's really not complicated at all. Okay. I think that's most of the blue done. I'm just going to add a little more depth of colour to some of these blue sections because I'm not very happy with some of these bits. I really like these paints because you can just blob paint down and it ends up looking really quite nice, especially once it's dry. And like I say, you can do as much or as little detail as you want. Okay, see, I forgot to fill in the other side of the arm. That was very smart, Adelaide. So, so, okay, here we are now. This is where we're up to. But just to give you a brief recap of what we're up to, I am basically painting on a tiny ceramic plate, um, and I've used a template that I made from tracing paper by tracing over the original image, which I printed on my computer. It's an image of one of my own paintings, one of my performance pieces that I did back in 2017, the first ever one, actually. And I'm using Pebeo paints, Pebeo. I don't know if that's how you're supposed to pronounce it. Pebeo. Um, and I got them from Amazon, very cheap, about £4 each. You can also get them from any craft store, like Hobbycraft, that kind of thing. And so right now I've almost finished painting the bodies on this piece. And then after that, I'm going to add some kind of gold embellishments. And then that will be it. Okay. Yeah. So you can see how I ended up when I was working on this last time, having to do 24 plays in about 48 hours. Oh my goodness, it was serious. And on the first night, I got so into it, I was painting until 4 o'clock in the morning. And and then when I got to the event with the plates, then I just had to let Maureen, my agent, know. Maureen, listen, I've been working on this since I've been on these until 4 a.m. I recognize. And she was like, okay, Adelaide, okay, calm down, calm down. Uh, yeah, it's anyway. There's no one to blame but myself. That's how I work. Once I start getting into something, and I need to get it done within a time frame, I will tend to just work and work until I pass out. Um, I'm just intense like that. Don't do that yourself. It is not advisable. Okay, and if this is not your profession, there's no need to. You can do it in a more relaxed way. So I think, let me just add a little bit more on those shoulders, and then I'll go to the gold. And with the gold, I'll use one of my favorite tiny brushes, which is called a rigger brush. It's really good for doing skinny lines. Okay. It doesn't have to be perfect. If there are mistakes, just call them happy little accidents. Does anyone ever watch Bob Ross back in the day? I used to love Bob Ross. I still watch him on YouTube, to be fair. Um, yeah, great hair. Bob Ross had fantastic hair, and he had a very calming way of doing tutorials. I wish I could do a tutorial like Bob Ross. I'm trying. Um, okay, so now I'm going to use this really tiny, skinny brush called a rigger brush. You don't have to get this kind of brush. I'm only using this because of the kind of uh, they are. When I was doing the performance, these were like paint splashes. So I literally threw opened the gold paint. It was acrylic paint, and just threw it across the canvas. So it created these really interesting sort of splashes. I just have to shake this. Actually, I'm just going to close it and shake it. It's looking a bit separated. That's better. Okay. I'm just going to very carefully just go around some of these splashes. I tell you, this bit of the performance was very fun indeed to do, to just be able to just throw paint. Um, Obviously, there was a direction to what I was doing. I wasn't just throwing it randomly, but it's quite satisfying to be able to just throw paint and not have to think about the mess you're making. Because actually, the mess doesn't end up being the mess. The mess ends up being something quite beautiful. That's very satisfying. Um, so just a light touch. See see if I make any happy little accidents. Bob Ross. Okay. And as well on this piece, obviously I'm not going to do this on here because it's just too tiny, but on the original piece, which I don't have anymore, it's sold, but on the original piece, after I'd finished the performance, I sat there and wrote what was in my mind, what I was feeling at the time when I was doing the performance. So these tiny writing all over the work, which when you look at the work is makes it a little bit more interesting and helps to add some context, I suppose. Um, but with something as tiny as this, it's best to keep it simple. And yeah, okay. No, that wasn't smart, Adelaide. No, it wasn't. Um, this was supposed to go all the way through the bodies. So this body here, so I have to wait until it's a little bit more dry before I add that bit of detail. So we'll just keep on working all the way around the gold splashes till we get to the end. Oops, that's a little bit too much paint. Yeah, be careful with adding too much. Okay, so I think it's almost done. I just want to make sure this bit here is a bit more dry before I make that final run through with the gold paint over it. And then it will be finished. Finito caput. Well, not quite, because there's one last bit one last treatment that we have to give to it. I'm just going to use the tiny brush and just add a little bit more to some of those hands. One of them I'm not happy with. No, it would help if I used the right colour paint. Yes, Adelaide. Back to the blue paint. Okay. So for anyone just joining, I've almost finished painting the painting step of this plate, and I started off by creating a template. This is the template using tracing paper, and traced over the original image, which is here, and then traced the front and the back. But obviously, before printing it out, I made sure that it was kind of trial and error, actually, in terms of printing it to size to make sure that it was the right size for the plate. And traced over the front and the back of the image, and then placed it on the plate so that it is facing, when I look at it, it's looking like how I want it to end up looking once it's on the plate. That's when you know it's the right way up. And then traced over it with a coloured pencil to make sure that I was getting all the bits. And then proceeded to paint. I suppose this is like paint by numbers, really. Is that what they call it when you get colouring books? You're doing your own paint by numbers colouring book thing on a plate. But the thing that you get at the end is usable and potentially quite beautiful if you do it correctly. So, okay, I think This is almost done. Just want to make that line a bit more substantial because it's annoying me the way it's looking right now. That's better. That's a big chunky thigh. There's nothing wrong with big thighs. Big thighs save lives. Mm-hmm. Yep. Just a little bit more blue in some places. Okay. You can see how easy it is to fill in those bits. So I should be able to go over that last bit of gold now. Still good. See? Patience. Patience is a virtue indeed. If I had gone straight over it, then it would have been a mess. See, these paints, they do get dry to touch quite quickly. So for stuff like this where you need to go over something, it makes it relatively easy. So I think we are good to go. Okay, close off the paints because we don't want any spillages. I'm quite clumsy. Okay, so this is your finished plate, but we're not done yet. Now that the plate is I'm happy with the design. I have to leave this to dry for 24 hours, and once it's dry, then I can put it in the oven for 35 minutes at 150. And then once you take it out, it's completely set. You can obviously be careful when you take it out, use oven gloves. Then it'll be completely set, and you can then use the plate. You can use it as a display, or you can use it to eat off. You can use it at dinner parties, however you want to use it. And I suppose you could apply this same principle to any kind of ceramics, plates of whatever size, or jugs, or vases, cups, anything. You can have a lot of fun. So over to Claire.
Oh, Adelaide. Oh, that was fantastic. I didn't realise how relaxing it actually is watching somebody do art. I mean, I know how relaxing it is doing it. Oh my goodness. Wow. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. It was a pleasure. It was a lot of fun.
Now, that is not the first time that you have painted ceramic plates, as you were saying, and we are going to find out more about your work as well. And you mentioned a few little clues as you was chatting earlier on. You kind of mentioned, well, when I used to just use paintbrushes, when I was doing this, when I was doing that. So for all of you guys watching, we are now going to find out all those little missing links of all of those little bits Adelaide was dropping in. But first of all, let's start off with the plate design that you're doing. You mentioned the colours, blue and gold, and how they're important, but this is actually one of your original paintings you've recreated for us, isn't it? Can you tell us all about it? 'Cause it's a beautiful story.
Yes, so basically, in 2017, well, 2016 is when I started working in this way, using my body as a tool. And I was working with a lady by the name of Katrina, and she introduced me to my current agent, Marine Tangi of MT Art Agency. And they invited me to submit a proposal to do a performance at an event they were doing called Unfold. And at the time, I hadn't done this type of performance before, but I had it planned in my head. I just didn't think I was going to be ready for it for at least a couple of years. So it really forced me to push myself. And basically, the whole idea behind the blue and gold is that this was inspired by an artist called Yves Klein. Yves Klein was a very famous French artist, and in 1960 he did this amazing performance called Anthropometries of the Epoch Blue. I will not say the French version because my French is terrible, but the performance itself was quite a sight to behold. Particularly, he had a group of young, beautiful ladies, and they were all nude. He was wearing a dinner suit. The audience were all wearing dinner suits, and they had an orchestra playing one note for about 25 minutes. And during the performance, he instructed the ladies to cover their bodies in International Klein Blue, which it's named after him because he patented this particular color blue, which is ultramarine blue, basically. So they covered their bodies in this paint, and then they pressed their bodies onto the canvas, but they were directed by him. And later on, as I was investigating this work, because that's part of what I do is really investigate art history as well as my own family history, I discovered a feminist critique in that was made in the 1980s. It said that what he was actually doing was creating passive female bodies which were ripe for objectification by the male gaze. That to me was very interesting. So I thought it would be interesting to see what the feminist response to that work would look like. And so for me, that involved covering my body in the blue paint in private, not in front of the audience, coming out in front of the audience, and then directing myself. So having given myself that agency in terms of how I was presenting myself and printing my body onto the canvas. So you can see some images of me doing that performance. So that was the first one I did in 2017 at Unfold, and I've subsequently done two more. So one was at Christie's Education last year, and the other one was to open Museum Week in Paris at Musée de l'Histoire de la Migration. Sorry, Marine, if I butchered the pronunciation. And all of that was through MT Arts Agency. And so, yeah, this performance is a very special one for me.
I mean, there's so much, isn't there, about loving our bodies now as women. I think it's such a hot topic for many years. The media and stuff, I was saying you have to look like this, you have to look like that, and now there's this wonderful celebration. Like for you as a woman, actually putting that paint on and using your body. I mean, was it quite liberating for you? How did it feel?
Yeah, I mean, for me, I'm all about female empowerment. So um, for me, I felt in the moment of making that work, I felt extremely powerful. And that's a feeling that I didn't expect to have. I was fully expecting to feel exposed and to feel vulnerable and to feel nervous. But actually, when I went out there and I felt like I had the audience under my spell, you could have heard a pin drop in the room. It was complete silence.
Wow.
And once I started to make the work, it just kind of flowed. And I suppose I entered into a flow state, I would say.
Yeah, it almost looks like you're doing a dance, like just that still picture of
Yeah.
you over the artwork as you're doing it. It's amazing to watch, and it's been amazing watching you create it. What would you say has been your kind of biggest inspiration? You mentioned, studying biology, studying history. You're British, but originally, your family's from Ghana, like you're Ghanaian. Like, what's been your kind of biggest inspiration so far?
Oh my God, there's so many. I'd say that, I mean, what I said about looking at history, at the core of my practice is a Ghanaian concept called Sankofa. And Sankofa means um, it is not wrong to look back and pick up that which is forgotten. And that means it's important to understand your history in order that you do not repeat the same mistakes from the past in the present, and also that so that you can have a good future. So when I say that at the core of my practice is that, it means that I'm constantly trawling through history, whether that's to do with my family or to do with art history, and bringing that back into the present and kind of revaluing it in a sense, to end up creating a piece of artwork. And those things can include Anna Mendieta is one of my favorite artists. Um, then there's subjects like colonialism, Britain's colonial past, and the relationship between Britain and countries like Ghana and other countries that were colonized by the British. So there's so many things, and then obviously life and feminism, specific artists, specific moments in history, uh, so many things. But if I could just actually, if we could go to the next image.
Yeah, let's go to the next image because you'll be
I
able to tell
can,
us more and talk us through your work.
exactly, exactly.
We're just going to get that up now. Loving a bit of lockdown. Everyone's muddling together, trying to get done what we can get done. But let's get that picture up on screen. Now we're just loading. Oh, brilliant. This is what it's all about, guys. Everybody at the moment, we're all in this together. We're all muddling through. I'm just going to check that we got this photo. Oh, we're just trying to get a photo of Adelaide's work up on screen. We're doing it. We're working on it, I've been told. So, Adelaide, we're going to get this picture up. Now, on your particular plate that you've designed for us, you've actually recreated one of your artwork. I'll hold that question till later because we've got another piece of artwork from your lovely self, from your wonderful body. Tell us all about this piece, please.
So this piece is called A Litany for Survival, and it's named after an Audre Lorde poem of the same name. And this one is really special to me as well, actually. I was asked to do this piece it was a performance piece that was filmed, and I was asked by a charity called the Rural Refugee Network to create some work for them. And every year they do like a big exhibition where they get loads of artists and they get a massive mansion in the countryside somewhere in Petersfield, and they sell work in aid of Syrian refugees. So it was a really important project. And the performance involved, I didn't do it publicly, but it involved me being tied to a post with resistance bands by my legs and trying to move forward, covered in blue paint. And not blue paint, in black paint. And every time I moved forward, I was pulled back. So that was kind of like a demonstration of struggle, and the piece that was at the end of it is like a physical enactment of that struggle. Yeah.
Wow. So I
So
was
if we
about
could
to
go
say
to the
there's a lot of blue paint in your work, but then you switched colours.
yeah, no, no, it's black.
Like, wow, it's
That
all
one was
blue.
black.
It's all blue. That was black.
No.
Do you find what's the audience's reaction when they come and see your performance? Because I don't think a lot of people know, they know about art, they know about performance, but performance art and actually seeing your pictures today, maybe their first experience of performance art. What kind of things do your audience get from you? Like when they report back and say, oh my goodness, when you was doing that, what do they say?
I've had such a range of reactions, and all of them have been highly emotional. And every time I'm always surprised. My most recent performance was it was like a continuation of that last one that I just showed you, which was a litany for survival. But it was this one was about Black womanhood and the kind of history of um, women in Africa post independence, after a lot of the countries in Africa started to get independence in the 1960s. And so I was talking about my mom's story. So this particular one I did in Morocco at with a lovely organisation called Black Shade Projects, and Miriam Badi and my friend Lisa Anson curating. And the audience reaction was it was so intense. I had women crying in my arms, telling me that within the space of time that it took to do that performance, which was 10 minutes, I had told their story and their mother's stories and their great grandmother's stories. And So for me, that was super emotional, and it meant a lot. And then on the other side, on it is another extreme reaction that I had to a performance that I did in January in New York, which was part of a project I had called Confronting Colonization. And the performance itself is called Into the Mind of the Colonizer. And I'd done this performance in London and Oslo before and hadn't had this reaction. Like, America is a completely different animal when it comes to this kind of topic and politics. And I had someone throw a pair of scissors across the room. I had people cutting their own clothes instead of cutting my clothes. There were some really extreme reactions. And at the end of the performance, a man was literally crying, shaking in my arms, because I had touched on something. So it depends on the performance. With the this particular one, the blue one that we've just done, from women, I had a lot of concern because they could see that I was naked. I'm not naked in all of my performances, but in this particular one, I am, because it's a response to a particular performance that involved nudity. And you can't necessarily tell that I'm naked. It looks like I'm wearing a bodysuit. And so I had a lot of women come and hug me afterwards and ask me if I was okay, if I needed anything, and did I feel vulnerable. They were so concerned for my personhood, which was really lovely. But on the other hand, I had men saying, "You've got some big nuts," like that kind of thing. Um,
Wow. But that's the
um,
purpose of art, isn't it? That's the purpose of art. Is you're in a position where you can provoke people, you can teach people, you can inspire people, and that's really what we're here for right now during lockdown, isn't it? To start inspiring
yeah,
people. We're all in this together, and of course today is their chance to learn art from you, and of course maybe ignite something in them. So not only do they start painting the ceramics in their home, be warned, your cups might be going missing, folks. But actually take up art, whether it be just for a hobby or maybe start including it in their professional life. Because I don't know what you found, but I know that everybody that I'm speaking to, everybody's gone back to arts and crafts. It's fantastic at the moment.
yeah. I mean, I've even picked up knitting again. I think I was mumbling about it when I was making the work.
Mm.
That when I was at university, and my mum used to run a nursing home, and I was a healthcare assistant. And the particular nursing home she was working in was she was looking after old people who had dementia. And one of my favourite patients there was a lady who taught me to knit and crochet. And I never forgot what she taught me. And after I left university, I started to make blankets and things for my friends. And since I've been in lockdown, I've picked it up again. I've made a tea cozy and a scarf, and I'm about to start making some slippers. And it's
We
been
know what
really,
your next
and
video is
even
going to be then.
I'm not that much of an expert on that. But
Oh,
yeah.
it's amazing. Now, Adelaide, I do believe there's one more picture that we might have seen it on the screen, but we haven't touched on it.
Okay.
Not only have you
Yeah.
been fusing your work with history and with empowerment and all those wonderful things you've spoken about, but you've actually incorporated your performance work and your way of working with some big brands on some really interesting projects. And I know that we've got an example of some of this art, and I wondered, if we can talk that through us. We saw the bottle on our screen earlier, but we didn't actually get a chance to chat about it. So if you could tell us a little bit more about that project.
Okay. So basically, as I said, I'm represented by MT Art Agency, and one thing that they're really good at is getting brand collaborations. And we did this project with Method UK. And so Method UK are, I think they're a subsidiary of the Eco brand. And
Mm.
so basically, they came to MTR agency, and they worked with three of the artists from the agency. I was, of course, one of them. And I created this piece specifically in response to the brief, which was that they wanted a design that evoked freshness. Um, we were basically allowed to do whatever we want. and really be true to how we would normally work. And so basically, I produced this piece using colours that I would never normally use, but I wanted to use colours that evoked cleanliness and freshness. And we also designed the scent. The scent is ginger twist. And because ginger is one of my favorite things, I put ginger in everything. And so, yeah, so we ended up with 2 hand washes and a multi-surface cleaner. And so that's the bottle that you were just looking at. So it was a
Lovely,
lot of
very
fun to work
apt,
on, and it was,
very
it's,
apt thing to discuss at this situation where we're cleaning
yeah.
everything like mad.
Do you know
Brilliant.
what's weird? Do you know what's so weird is that this product was literally launched at the beginning of the year. Nobody had any idea that this was going to happen. So now, like everyone's saying that they keep on trying to go to Tesco's and Sainsbury's to buy my bottles, and they're sold out everywhere.
Oh wow, well, we was chatting
We
earlier and
did
I was like,
not
oh, I
plan for
use that.
that.
I use that. I use that. There you go. You're a collector's item before you knew it. Adelaide, it has been fantastic. It really has. And I think it's so important for people to know that they can do art right now in their homes. They haven't got to worry about, booking into classes, running out to the shops and getting particular things. Everything that you use in your life today is stuff that if you haven't already got it at home, you can get via a delivery very cheaply in a couple of days. So everybody can start expressing themselves and doing a little bit of art.
Yeah, it's comforting and it's healing. There's so much evidence out there about the healing qualities of art and how it can really take down your stress levels. And right now, it's so important to reduce stress levels. Anybody who knows anything about stress knows that it increases levels of cortisol in the body, which can cause all kinds of illnesses, and it reduces your immunity as well. So whatever you can do to reduce that stress, I think you should do it.
Totally agree. We want to be as calm and as relaxed as possible in this current situation, and quite rightly, yeah, keep that immune system strong. And Adelaide, it's been amazing. Like I feel so. It's quite difficult to present actually because I feel so relaxed after watching you paint. You've definitely inspired me. So thank you so much. I know that many people are going to be so intrigued with your work because, for many, including myself, you're the first person I've heard of using their body in such a way, which is really exciting. Can you tell us, how can we get hold of you? If people want to look up more about your future performances and your work, can you let us know about your website, please?
Of course. So my website is adelaidedamoahart.com. I'm also represented by MT Art Agency, so you can find me on MT Art Agency website. And MT Art is just the letter M, the letter T, and then art dot agency. I think that's the website. You could just Google the website and you'll find it. I'm also on all the socials, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. And via my website, you can sign up to my mailing list so you can get updates as well if you like. But I'm probably more active um, on the socials, to be honest.
Oh, lovely. And also, guys at home, please don't forget to take your pictures, create your videos, and send them to us. And of course, send them to Adelaide as well, because we want to see your plates, don't we, Adelaide? We want to see their artwork.
Oh, do you know what? If you do this, put it on Instagram if you're on Instagram, obviously. If you're on Instagram and you make a plate, tag me and I will repost it. And the same on Twitter. Yeah, feel free. I'd love to see.
Yeah, as we all know, we are all in this together. So, folks, do get yourselves interactive and do get yourself making some fabulous art. Adelaide, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much. You have been amazing and so interesting to talk to. And basically, I think my job is at risk because you are so good on those cameras. Thank you. We shall
Thank
be hearing from you
you.
soon, I'm sure. But Adelaide, take care. Thank you so much.
And you. Thank you for having me. Take care.
Oh, the lovely Adelaide Damoah. Oh, wow. We learned to paint on ceramics. How cool is that? And guys, mid live show, I had to switch cameras and equipment and all sorts. It all goes on in lockdown, doesn't it? Guys, share this with your friends, re-watch that video back, and do Get yourselves more involved with all of our videos. 66ofus.uk is bringing you entertainment, interaction, and lots of lives from famous celebrities from all over the world, bringing you hints, tricks, and possibly more art. We will be back tomorrow. Bye-bye for now.